Hey guys, I hope you all had a nice 2023. It was a great year for movies. I had some pretty amazing times in theaters last year. I saw a bunch of new releases, but as always, I can't talk about all of them, and I definitely missed a few. So if you want to see my full list, you can check out my letterbox down below. Alright, let's get into it.
All my life, without a doubt, I give you all my life. Now and forever till the day I die, you and I will share all the things this changing world can offer. So I sing, I'd be happy just to stay this way, spend each day with you. There was a time that I just thought that I would lose my mind. You came along and then the sun did shine. Started on our way. I do recall that every moment spent was wasted time, but then I chose to lay it on the line. I put the past away. I put the past away. I put the past away.
It's been a while since we've had a new holiday classic, but Alexander Payne's latest directorial effort, The Holdovers, seems to have quickly added itself to the canon. Payne is a filmmaker I've always admired. His slice-of-life dramedies that largely take place in Nebraska have always towed a really delicate balance of humor, drama, and warmth, and The Holdovers is no exception. The film follows the terrific Paul Giamatti as a grumpy, arrogant professor for a fancy boarding school in the 70s who's forced to watch the holdovers, the kids that for one reason or another can't go home for the holidays. He forms an unlikely bond with one of the students, Angus Tully, played by the fantastic newcomer Dominic Sessa, and the school's head cook Mary Lamb, played wonderfully by Divine Joy Randolph. While the film starts as one of those typical stories about different people forced together, it quickly proves to be much richer and incredibly tender, and uses the holiday genre to express how hard the lives of people around us might truly be, how people around us could be struggling and fighting battles we don't know, and how that translates into the way that they express themselves. The holidays can be really sweet, but equally difficult for others, a reminder of what you don't have. This film urges us to be kind and compassionate to others, even if that can be hard work. The chemistry between Giamatti and Sessa is fantastic, and David Hemingson's writing suits both of them so well. And Randolph is the heart of the film and adds so much depth and compassion. I'm glad she gets a significant part of the story. It's great to see Payne return to form. Okay, yes, technically cheating, but in a year where Wes gave us so many incredible works, it feels wrong to only mention one. Wes has always been interested in the act of storytelling, how we tell stories, how we share stories, how stories shape us, and his films often have narrators talking directly to us. The stories we are watching are shown to be from novels, books, and newspapers, among other things, and he very often wants us to know we are watching a story unfold. But this year he's taken it one step further. Asteroid City is not only a lovingly told portrayal of grief and our desire for understanding, but a look at the way we tell stories and why we tell stories, and how those stories help us process our feelings, how acting, writing, and performance itself play such a big part of how we process grief and sadness. I'd be lying if I said I've fully grasped everything Wes threw at me with this one. It's an incredibly dense film with so many ideas, but I found it incredibly moving. So funny and so touching, and he's constantly one-upping himself visually. Johansson is fantastic, and Schwartzman gives one of his best performances to date. As for Henry Sugar, I wasn't sure what to expect and was really surprised about how unique those short films were. Based on Roald Dahl short stories, there is a lot going on with these films. Personally, I believe he's really interrogating the idea of storytelling in a way only he knows how, in these semi-theatrical visual narrations beautifully expressed that move at an incredible pace with our actors directly addressing the audience. It's not only hilarious and clever, but he's inviting us to be a part of the process and story itself, filled with these moving sets, stagehands directly interacting in the scene, and characters playing multiple parts. It's one of the most unique and creative ways I've seen an adaptation brought to life, being both a literal adaptation while taking them to new creative heights. I thought they were all great, but the titular story of Henry Sugar was easily my favorite. Amazing cast, put Dev Patel in everything. Food? Romance? What else do you need? Tran Ang Hung's latest feature is a feast for the eyes and stomach, and has added itself to the pantheon of great culinary films. It's largely a film where you watch Benoit Magimel and Juliette Binoche in the French countryside cook these extravagant and gorgeous meals, but it's also a lovingly told romance about the very unique relationship the two have with one another, pretty much the most beautiful situationship, which is further helped by their on-screen past together as a couple many years ago that is definitely worth reading about. This film has a really unique pace and doesn't conform to any conventional narrative beats. While the food is genuinely incredible to watch, the film's heart and center is love, and food as an expression of our love. There are moments in this film that move me to tears. It is an incredible achievement that should not be overlooked. To say I was excited for a new Miyazaki movie would be an understatement. The great director's potentially final film that's been in the works for 7 years was something I couldn't wait for. I went in pretty blind like most people I imagine, and what I saw I honestly didn't expect. This dreamy, delicate film is truly a swan song to the kingdom that Miyazaki has created as a director and animator, and a really touching farewell that might not be the end for him, but that seems to be urging us to continue to push forward and find our own way in the world, and not live in the shadow of another. I would be lying if I said I understood everything I saw while watching, but I felt the emotion oozing out of this picture, along with some incredible voice performances, including Robert Pattinson as the Heron, and the gorgeous and luscious music by Joe Hisaishi, both simple and very dense. I cannot wait to revisit this film. This propulsive eco-thriller that frames its titular act of blowing up a pipeline like a heist film is excellent, and gives you exactly that, the story of a group of young people all with different reasons to blow up this pipeline, and why they're risking their life for it. Based on a novel of the same name, this film has such a refreshing energy that I really went for. I think this film really speaks to the time we live in, especially to a generation of younger people like me who are constantly frustrated by the state of the world. To see a film that gives us power and agency to take matters into our own hands felt invigorating and empowering. Not to mention, it's also incredibly entertaining. I loved how precise and urgent it felt without undercutting the human element that makes a film like this so crucial. We really understand why they need to do this and what's at stake. Love the performances across the board. Daniel Goldhaber has made an excellent film. No film series has had the consistent quality that the Mission Impossible series has had. A few years ago, I decided to give them a watch and found myself absolutely enraptured by them. They're truly the best film series we have right now. And since McHugh wrote for the 4th film and took over the reins for the 5th, they have been nothing but a joy. This latest installment is honestly maybe my least favorite of the ones he's made, but that still means it's one of the best action films I've seen in years. He sets the bar incredibly high. Dead Reckoning is an unbelievably fun and riveting time. I was grinning ear to ear the whole film. And I was pleasantly surprised by all the great physical humor. The car chase in Italy and the train scene in the final act were equally hilarious and jaw-dropping. They really put every other action film to shame. Cruise's commitment to delivering genuinely great cinematic experiences is second to none. Hayley Atwell is also a welcome addition to the cast and delivers what I found to be a pretty fantastic performance and plays off Cruise really well. I think the film suffers from a little overwriting, but it's a small issue when the majority of the movie is just such a blast. When the next film comes out, see it on the biggest screen possible. Tommy is saving cinema one insane action sequence at a time. It was very cool in real time to realize I was watching what is probably one of the most impressive visual experiences of my life, in IMAX no less. The first Spider-Verse film is one of the best superhero and animated films I've ever seen, so this one had a lot to live up to, and generally did, and even passed them. These films feel like such a collaborative joy and celebration of cinema. So many styles and characters blended together, and so many incredible voice performances. Such a well-constructed script that not only understands Spider-Man, but how we view superheroes today, and uses that to its advantage to twist those tropes on its head. And once again, the emotional core of this thing is so strong, and I love that Gwen got so much of the story. The Spot is a really exciting villain, and I think the character growth we see from Miles is pretty special. It really feels like a landmark animated film. Since it is a part 1, it's hard to fully judge how it is without seeing part 2, but if this film is any indication, I think we're in for a real treat. Martin Scorsese, one of the greatest filmmakers to ever live, made a movie this year, and it was really, really good. Before I saw the film, I decided to read the novel it was based on by David Grann, and I think that really framed the way I viewed the film. I think Killers is a brilliant work of adaptation, one that doesn't just adapt the book but feels of a piece with the source material, covering parts of the story the book simply cannot, and vice versa. I describe the book as narrative journalism, and much of the book is about getting a wider portrait of the time period, which includes a lot of the early years of the FBI and the investigation itself with Tom White's perspective. And while I think that works for the book, I think the shift to focusing on the relationship between Molly and Ernest, this twisted romance, was a really smart decision and gives a much richer look at the people whose lives were shaped by these horrors. When it comes to adaptation, there's always going to be things lost, and while I understand plenty of complaints leveled against it, especially the lack of focus on the actual Osage for a chunk of the runtime, I found the film incredibly moving and harrowing. When using such a dense and wide-scaling work of literature, there's always going to be sacrifices made, and overall I think they did a really good job handling that. Leo gives one of his best performances ever as Ernest Burkhart, this slimy, disgusting idiot, and Lily Gladstone as Molly Burkhart, in a very difficult role, shows so much strength. She is truly the heart of this beast of a film. Robert De Niro is also unbelievably good in a lane I haven't really seen him in, as this terrifying William Hale. Just 3 towering performances. Insane Oscar snubs for Leo in lead actor and for best adapted screenplay. The thing I really left walking away with was how Marty portrays the banality of evil. In the book, the story is framed as a mystery, but the shift in perspective makes the tragedies all the more terrifying. We watch these cruel and horrible men treat these acts of violence with such indifference. Marty is showing us how this deep-seated evil was there before them, and it will be there when it's gone. And more than not, it goes unpunished. It's a sickening feeling that lingers throughout the whole film. This is a heavy, dense film, and it left me with a lot to sit with. And without spoiling, I have a lot of feelings about what they chose to adapt from the story, but I think it's a truly remarkable achievement. And in a year of incredible endings, this stands out as maybe my favorite. One that blew me away and puts so many ideas the film is exploring into one simple moment. Marty hasn't lost a step. He's the best to ever do it. I think a lot of people have noticed that in the last number of years there's been a lack of romance and eroticism on screen. Thankfully, we have filmmakers like Yorgos Lanthimos to shake things up again. And with his latest film, I think he cemented himself as a titan in the film world. Poor Things, his biggest film to date, is a sexy, vibrant, hilarious, provocative, and wildly entertaining film about a woman brought to life by a bizarre scientist and how she learns to be her own person. Poor Things dons these gorgeous, Gaudian-like visuals and set design that create a larger-than-life atmosphere that not only heighten but add to the already wonderful over-the-top performances. It's just a film bursting with creativity. In an age where every film on streaming looks exactly the same, it's so refreshing when a film has such a bold visual style that it owns 100%, fisheye lenses and all. Emma Stone is genuinely unreal, and I was blown away by her full commitment to the role. But the supporting cast is also incredible. Willem Dafoe, Mark Ruffalo, Rami Youssef, Christopher Abbott, Catherine Hunter, and the rest are all delivering fantastic performances. Ruffalo especially stood out as one of his finest performances. He is so funny here. I love the way the film explores liberation, sexual liberation, and becoming your own person. We are constantly aware of societal pressures put on us, so it's so refreshing and exciting to watch a character free from those shackles and explore life on her own terms. The Emma Stone-Yorgos Lanthimos relationship is one of our best new collaborative duos in cinema, and I can't wait to see what else they continue to do. And before we get to my number one film, here are a few honorable mentions. The Iron Claw, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, May December, Skinamarink, John Wick 4, The Killer, and Anatomy of a Fall. The dark half of the biggest cultural phenomenon of 2023. My film of the year is Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. I think like many people in their 20s, Nolan has been an incredibly important filmmaker to me. And with his latest film, he's knocked it out of the park once again. I honestly wasn't sure if he'd be able to pull off a film like this. Nolan has never really struck me as a political filmmaker, and when he's tried it in movies like the Dark Knight trilogy, it's always been kind of murky, but he really proved me wrong and then some here. I even got to see it in IMAX 70, which was genuinely unreal. Strap in, I have a lot of thoughts on this film. Where to even start with a film this colossal? This is an equally devastating and entertaining film that is constantly wrestling with that contradiction. I absolutely love Nolan's choice to tell this film essentially just from Oppenheimer's perspective. I remember reading criticisms when the film came out that the film doesn't lend itself to other perspectives, but that's precisely the point. There are so many incredible and harrowing films about the aftermath of the atomic bomb, but I think this film needed to be from a single perspective. It makes the horrors all the more real. The film starts by showing us a version of Oppie as this charismatic genius playboy of the physics world, but it quickly becomes very clear he is a cowardly man who doesn't really believe in anything. Communism, among other things, only function as a means to an end for him. Once he's told to drop association with it for the sake of the Manhattan Project, he does so without hesitation. He starts involvement with the project on the basis of beating the Nazis, but it feels like it's really for himself. He wants to build this thing, he wants to be the one, and the film shoots the building of the atomic bomb in the first half with such rigorous energy and spectacle. And it makes sense. These people would get swept away in the race to build the bomb. They believe it's a race to save the world. Oppie knows deep down the gravity of the atomic bomb, but hides behind the shield of progress and uses the excuse of the Nazis' own research as a reason to continue. And even then, eventually he can't hide behind that ruse. When Hitler's found dead, it becomes even more horrific that they continue the building of the bomb. And I love the moral ambiguity the film explores. However good intentioned Oppie might have been, he is still culpable for what the military did with the bomb. And towing that line is so difficult, but Nolan nails it. And let's talk about it. Cillian Murphy is unbelievable. Keeping that same energy throughout this runtime is a real feat. The way he's able to make Oppenheimer so incredibly fleshed out and three-dimensional, keeping that quick pace scene after scene, a man who can be charismatic and charming but so flawed and cowardly and empty. There is such a fascinating dichotomy to him and our own feelings towards him. I understand he's an incredibly flawed individual, and I understand his pain in the latter half of the film, how the guilt of his actions wash over him every second, how he struggles to grasp the weight of his decisions and the actions they will inevitably have, but how that doesn't excuse for 1 second his participation in the building of the atomic bomb, and his cowardice when truly called upon to express what he believes in and what he thinks we should do about the bomb. He wants to have his cake and eat it too, to build the bomb for the advancement of science without the actual consequences of what it can do, and once he begins to understand the weight of that decision, it's simply too late. And the way Nolan explores those ideas I found riveting. The film's exploration into American militarism and politics is also incredibly terrifying. How America obviously isn't this noble and heroic country. It's a country also filled with evil and judgmental men who ridicule anyone they don't deem as patriotic or on their side. And the film's narrow perspective lends itself to this. How these white men in the desert decided the outcome of one of the single greatest tragedies in the history of the world. And they never saw the people they were affecting. And that is truly terrifying. I think not seeing the horrors makes the decisions in this film all the more terrifying for how real it is and how in reality that's how these things happen. They are decided by men who will never see or really have to deal with the consequences of their actions. And on that note, we also need to talk about the other side of this movie, which explores Lewis Strauss and Oppenheimer's trial. What makes those scenes essential is they see the other side of the bomb. Militarization, war, and the politics that lead to the destruction of man. How these few powerful figures with fragile egos end up ruining and destroying countries and civilizations because of said egos. The Lewis Strauss scenes, played brilliantly by Robert Downey Jr., really highlight how petty rivalries and man's nature lead to horrific acts of war and have consequences beyond our comprehension. And the interrogation scenes when Oppie allows himself to be punished for his part in the building of the bomb, is incredible and highlight the deep-rooted evil, bigotry, and hypocrisy in our country. The scene where they're deciding where to bomb and decide not to bomb Kyoto because a military commander honeymoon there is horrific, and a microcosm of what those scenes are really nailing. There is just so much I admire about this film, and it really shook me to my core. The acting across the board is amazing, such an incredible ensemble film. Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh are doing such great work with perhaps underwritten roles, essential sex scenes and all. Alden Ehrenreich, Jason Clarke, Matt Damon, Kenneth Branagh, Benny Safdie, David Krumholtz, Josh Hartnett, the list goes on and on. That propulsive score, the sound design, how Nolan teases it before the bomb testing then lets it go full force for that incredible and chilling explosion, where we feel the weight of what Appy has built. And then what is maybe the best scene of the film, when Appy gives the speech to the audience at Los Alamos, and they cheer, and we hear and eventually see the horror that Appy imagines he's causing with the bomb, with no going back. Bone-chilling stuff. The editing here is so crucial. It's so precise and thoughtful and keeps the movie from ever losing steam. And also the funniest cut of the year when Einstein pops out with that baggy sweater. Just so much going on here. Just an overwhelming film that Nolan finds a way to put together into this 3-hour epic. And that final scene, that is teased from so many different perspectives, really is such a powerful ending. It somehow ties together the political, emotional, and existential themes of the film into one scene. If you couldn't tell by now, I really loved it. A brilliant piece of filmmaking. And those are my favorite films of the year. But before I go, here are some of my other favorite things from last year. I haven't been the biggest TV guy lately, but I did watch a handful of shows this year I really enjoyed. Barry Season 4, Poker Face, Pluto, I Think You Should Leave Season 3, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, How To with John Wilson, The Last of Us, The Curse. But by far my favorite show of 2023 was Season 2 of The Bear. I was a fan of Season 1, but this new season was an insane level up. Just some of the most unbelievable character growth I've ever seen. Every character feels so much more fleshed out and lived in. Of course we want growth from our characters, but it's so hard to make it so organic like it is here. Just so much compassion and warmth mixed with that frenetic energy and cinematography that define the show. I think a lot of people think of the Fishes episode from this season, but for me the episode that really blew me away was Forks. Watching Richie's growth in just that episode was genuinely unbelievable and moved me to tears. One of the most special episodes of TV I've seen in so long. I know it sounds silly, but watching The Bear and seeing what it takes to build a genuinely great restaurant has made me appreciate food much more than I ever have. I was even fortunate enough to go to a Michelin star restaurant last year, and I felt like I was really able to understand and appreciate all the effort and care they put into the food and experience. If that doesn't define a great show, I'm not sure what does. It's also been a really great year for music. My favorite albums this year were Jessie Ware, That Feels Good, Unknown Mortal Orchestra, 5, Pachinko, Bad at Maths, Nourished by Time, Erotic Probiotic 2, Eve's Tumor, Praise the Lord Who Chews But Which Does Not Consume, or simply Hot Between Words, Indigo D'Souza, All of This Will End, Paranol, After the Magic, Jeff Rosenstock, Hell Mode, Wednesday, Rat Saw God, and number 1, Temple of Angels, Endless Pursuit. Temple of Angels are a small band from Austin I saw a few years back in New York open up for Turnover. I thought they were great, and finally we got their debut album. Endless Pursuit is a gorgeous album that's hard to define but mixes dream pop, shoegaze, and rock along with ambience and synths for this luscious gothic sound. There's a little Cockatoo Twins, Maisie Starr, and the Sundays in there somewhere. Brie Morell's vocals are stunning and pierce through the moody dreaminess of the music. But they show a little versatility as well with some male vocals by I believe Avery Burton, who's also their guitar player. Regardless, this is an incredible debut album, and I can't wait to see what these guys do next. My favorite tracks were Tangled in Joy, Waving to the Wind, The Hill, and For You I'd Lose It All. And that's about it for 2023. Nintendo did re-release this old game called Dokapon Kingdom that is like Mario Party meets Sid Meier's Civilization. It's incredible and made me and my friends hate each other for like 3 weeks, but it's worth checking out. Game of the year. Besides that, yeah, that's it. Let me know what your guys' favorite films or whatever were of 2023. As always, if you made it this far, please like and subscribe. It really helps. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.